here we are in lovely Jackson Hole, Wyoming, driving the Polestar 3, 2025 Polestar 3. And I think maybe just a very brief history on Polestar is in order here, because a lot of people still might not know what that brand name stands for or where it came from. It used to be a performance brand associated with Volvo in Sweden. That was true from the 1990s to around 2017, at which point Volvo decided to essentially purchase the brand and ingest it into the company and start making a separate division of Volvo called Polestar. The first Polestar, the Polestar 1, was actually a hybrid vehicle, but the Polestar 2, which came out about 2 years ago, was a pure EV, and so is the Polestar 3 we're driving in now. And that Polestar 1 was like a two-door coupe, performance-oriented hybrid. The 2 was like a hatchback sedan combo, and it's still on sale now, and that's their primary seller. But this will go on sale soon. It's going to be built in South Carolina. It's the first Polestar built domestically here. It's their first SUV. So this is a hugely important car in that it's their first, probably really widely appealing car related to customer volume. Everyone knows that SUVs are huge now, and this is their first SUV. So kind of like Genesis, when they finally had SUVs, that's when their volume really took off. That's going to be the same thing with the Polestar 3. This car looks pretty cool for an SUV. It's got these big 22-inch wheels. It's got this high roof at the front, but then it tapers going back to help enhance aerodynamics and styling. It's got relatively short overhangs, wheels pushed out to the edge. It's an attractive looking car, very minimalist. Some of the other traits that they talked about specific to driving dynamics, kind of what you would expect. The car is supposed to be very driver engaging. It's supposed to be very confident and predictable. They actually try to shoot for sports car-like dynamics. That's their initial tuning and effort. And then they pull back slightly from that to regain some comfort. That's really a good way to describe it. I think I've heard from a lot of car companies that want to focus on performance, and that's a common description that you hear, high performance, that kind of thing. But to actually describe it as sports car oriented and then slightly pulled back to regain some comfort, but still a sports car overall philosophy and approach, that's a good description. As with every electric car, this one's got all that instant torque. As soon as you roll in the throttle, you get a response. This one's powered by two dual 380 kilowatt motors, one front, one rear, and then it's got a 111 kilowatt hour battery pack mounted low. They actually said that this car has a lower center of gravity than that Polestar 1 performance coupe that they first came out with. This big SUV has a lower center of gravity. Thank you, low mounted 111 kilowatt hour battery pack. The battery pack is located not just low, but also in a way to make sure it ensures perfect 50-50 front to rear weight balance. Polestar folks said that that 111 kilowatt hour battery pack can charge at up to 250 kilowatts with a DC fast charger, and that it will deliver an EPA rated 315 miles of range, which is pretty good in today's world. That's very competitive. Now that we're getting out from Jackson Hole and into the mountains, we're actually able to play with some of the, well, suspension and performance settings on this car, and there are a lot of those. Everything happens within the realm of the 14.5-inch center touchscreen. But to Polestar's credit, they had some cool interfaces here. I like these bright orange colors, very Polestar friendly. You know, you can change things, and you don't have to try to punch just the thing here, which is good because it doesn't seem to be very responsive. But you can just hit the entire block here, you see? And it's changing my settings just by hitting the big block. Easier to do while you're driving. There's a wide range of controls through this 14.5-inch touchscreen right here in the center that allow you to change a wide range of things in the car. But you also have to use it for certain things like opening the glove box and adjusting the steering wheel or the mirrors. This is becoming more common. Tesla's been doing this for years, and now we're starting to see it adopted by other car companies. They've got all sorts of explanations for why they do it, but we all know the real reason. It's less hard controls, and that lowers the cost of producing the car when you have fewer fixed hard buttons. I think generally speaking, there's no getting away from this. It's the wave of the future, but there is a part of me that feels like if you're having a problem with the system and there's also something important in the glove box that you need, it can cause issues. One thing that's interesting about this system, they did this on the Volvo EX90 I drove recently. Again, parent company of both Volvo and Polestar is Geely, and there is a lot of shared componentry. And both of these cars have a dedicated volume knob. Yay, kudos to Volvo and Polestar for providing that. There is no better control for volume than a knob. And in this case, the volume knob has a dual purpose. You can also use it to reboot the infotainment system if it starts to lock up on you or just malfunction. I do like that component. That makes me a little less nervous about so many dedicated controls residing in this touchscreen and not residing as hard dedicated buttons. I also do like that the touchscreen does have consistent perpetual climate controls at the bottom, hazards, and accessing some of the primary car systems, and the home button, of course. Probably one of the best features on this vehicle is a 25 channel, 25 speaker, 1610 watt Bowers & Wilkins audio system. And you can get that audio system as well as a few other options rolled into this vehicle. But before you ever add any options, the starting price on a Polestar 3 is $84,900. And if you load one up like this one is here, I think this is even a launch edition, it tops out at $93,000. It's not an inexpensive car. You're certainly paying for both the luxury and performance aspects of this car and that 315-mile range, which is, again, impressive, but not inexpensive. So as mentioned, if you want to make basic control adjustments to this vehicle, including the exterior mirrors and the steering wheel, you've got to jump into this interface. And I believe you hit the car, and then you hit settings, and then you hit controls. And sometimes the system seems to take a little while to take an order. Come on. And then you hit adjust steering wheel. And now I can use these buttons here to adjust the steering wheel settings. But some would say that's a lot of work to get to the steering wheel adjustments. Now, the thinking is that you would memorize the steering wheel position and everything else in the car to a profile on your phone, because you can drive this car with the phone only, not needing any other form of key. And it would automatically reset if there's multiple people in the house. So you'd do that once, you'd go through that process once, and then you'd be back to hardly ever using it. That's the theory, at least. Same thing again with the glove box. To open the glove box, you've got to hit this button here, and there it is. And again, one thing I've noticed since we got in this car is this kind of repeated need to hit the button more than once. Maybe this system is still being finalized. The cars are maybe early in their software development or something. But if you're going to make everything controlled through a computer interface, you should probably have a pretty responsive computer interface and not have things requiring multiple pushes of the same button. Because I've seen that a lot just in the first 45 minutes of driving this car. So, we've got a nice cloudy day here, and that means there's not really a lot of heat coming in from solar energy, which is good because there's a forced panoramic glass roof on every Polestar 3. And right now I don't care because it's so cloudy, but there's a part of me that's not a big fan of having those forced glass roofs, which you're seeing a lot on cars these days, especially when there's not even a shade that you can pull to block the sunlight out. Some of us have less protection up here than others, and even if they claim that there's no UV or other harsh sunlight coming in, when you're sitting under a glass roof and the sun's beating down on you, and you're maybe in the Southwest or even in Southern California, you start to feel like you're unintentionally sunbathing the whole time. So that is one aspect of many modern cars that I'm not a huge fan of. There's some cool exterior design elements to this car. Do you see how it's got this little air relief here? It opens up here and it evacuates here. Very common on performance cars these days, where you're going to actually get a little bit of downforce on the vehicle at higher speeds. That's why they put that on cars like the old Ford GT40. And then you've got this same thing going on here. More very creative aero with a rather aggressive rear spoiler at the back and bottom of where this roof tapers down for increased aero and downforce. Also some interesting little air management around the lower sides of the car. This one is covered in snow and mud because, well, we were driving through snow and mud coming over Teton Pass. But 22-inch wheels, trademark kind of gold colored Polestar Brembo brake calipers, and this is a lighter gray. The other car we were driving earlier was a darker gray. I think I like that better. It almost had some blue in it, but you've got some really nice design elements on this vehicle. And you see, you've still got the Thor's hammer, as they call it, headlight design. See? So some cool design elements, and we were getting some positive reaction when we were driving it through Jackson Hole. People were seeing it and they were stopping and looking. So if they were trying to get a head turner, I think they succeeded. You got your electric car, you think no engine, so I get another storage area in the front, right? Well, maybe not a huge one. You're going to get a couple cubic feet of storage, but a lot of it's taken up by this mobile 240 volt charger. It was a fun adventure up here in Jackson Hole driving the new Polestar 3. This car shares a lot with the Volvo EX90. There's no getting away from it. Everything from the battery pack to the range to, well, the platform is essentially the same vehicle. They're both built at the same plant in South Carolina. But I can tell from driving this vehicle, even with some limitations on how aggressive we could drive it because of the weather and the snow adventures we had, but I could tell that this vehicle does have a more sporty feel. The steering feels better. There's multiple levels of suspension versus either firm or soft like in the EX90. This is definitely more performance oriented than its stablemate from Volvo. And it's going to go on sale soon. You're going to have to pay a little more for this one. It starts around 84 and it goes up to 93. The Volvo is about 80 to 90. So this one's a little more expensive and you're losing that third row seat. But overall, if you want to do performance-oriented driving and have a more upscale exterior design, this is your car. You want to go mainstream, electric 3-row SUV, the Volvo EX90 is your better choice.